We just saw Inherent Vice, and on this show I take my friends, we go see a movie, we review it in the car, and then we have a discussion. The review part is spoiler-free, so if you're looking for a recommendation or on the fence, you can watch the first part, find out whether we recommend it or not, and not get spoiled. If you've already seen the movie or don't care to and just want to know everything we thought, watch the discussion part, because we will get into spoilers once we've reached that cutoff point. So, Inherent Vice, new Paul Thomas Anderson movie. It's freaking weird, and it's a lot of scenes, and it is built in sort of a mystery sort of way. You're following Joaquin Phoenix's character, who's a private investigator. I think that a lot of people will really hurt themselves trying to follow the mystery, trying to follow follow what's happening, because it's not really meant to be followed, I don't think. I think it's more of just a series of things that happens, and it happens to be a private investigator. That's just the way they tie all of this stuff together. It might as well just have been, it would have been like a series of coincidences otherwise, that he runs into all these hurt people or gets wrapped up in all these different things. He could have been a police officer, but that would have been a little bit strange too. So it works that he is the character that he is, but I can see where people would get a little confused, if not extremely confused, trying to follow, his train of thought and what he's thinking and what he's figuring out, the mystery he's figuring out, because there's also like 20 different cases that are going on at once, and it's really hard to juggle all of the stuff that's happening and all of the characters that are there. It helps a little bit that most of the main cast is people that you know. They're actors that you've seen before or heard of before. So you can at least, like, if you don't remember the character's name, you can at least remember the actor's name and sort of piece it together later on. But it's also a movie that I think rewards a second and third viewing, and is probably not something that you're going to forget about like really quickly. You're going to be thinking about it for a while after you watch it. So if you're in for all of that, great. If you're looking for just a straight up mystery, crime, action sort of thing, this is not that movie. So that's my recommendation. What'd you guys think?
I loved it. I thought it was really great. Like Dale said, it's not really a straightforward narrative. As somebody who knows what it's like to be high on marijuana occasionally, just his experiences, that feeling of paranoia that you get sometimes, or more just being kind of in that lifestyle, feeling like, oh, authorities coming down on me and big corporations coming down on me, and all these things get really confusing. And that's where I really connected with the story. It's told in an intentionally confusing way to kind of relate that feeling of paranoia and confusion in the main character himself. And I just thought it was great. I thought the performances were great. I loved how all of the characters that weren't the main character were just super lewd. Just over the top, like lewd and graphic with the way they talked about sex and things like that. So yeah, I would highly recommend it.
So who would you recommend it to?
I would recommend it to people who, honestly, who liked movies like The Big Lebowski, who like kind of dirtier, hard R comedies, even though it's not really a straightforward comedy. If you're looking for something a little more weird, something to kind of open up your brain a little bit, I would recommend this.
It has its moments. I mean, there's some funny moments in it for sure. Yeah. Who else?
Yeah, I also loved it. I've read the book before, and actually, it's funny to hear it. I feel justified now. It's funny to hear the whole world be like, this is a weird, confusing movie. Because I tried to read the book once and couldn't get through it because I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Am I just not... I thought it was my failing as a reader, honestly.
No, it's confusing.
Yeah, so I gave up on it, and I came back to it later, and I was just like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to follow what's happening, but I do love the atmosphere, and that was kind of my feeling with the movie, too, just like... And so I this is my third time taking in at least parts of it, and and I can say, I think the way it just boils down is it's almost like a series of loose coincidences, basically, that happen to this charming pothead, and it's wonderful. I love it.
It's like there's things that happen outside of the story that either happened before the story started or happened off screen, and it's like he either forgot about that stuff and just didn't tell you,
Right.
or it just isn't important, and so it doesn't.
It's very much of the way Pynchon's work is. I mean, I've only read a couple of other novels of his, but like The Crying of Lot 49, which is almost kind of a weird, like, weed-heavier retelling of that novel. And that novel also, you can't follow along the plot in it at all. I did love, I'm going to echo what Christian said. I love that this took place in, like, kind of an alternate, just looter, grosser, drug-heavier version of our universe. Just like everybody's a little bit more down to immediately be ready to have sex with or do whatever drug or just whatever.
Yeah. Almost like a Grand Theft Auto universe.
Yes. Yeah, it's like a Grand Theft Auto type universe, kind of. Yeah, loved it.
What'd you think?
I enjoyed it from start to finish. It was hilarious. It was incredibly lewd, but that was half of its charm. I liked the fact that you can just watch it and take it at face value and still enjoy it. Or, you know, if you're a person that likes to delve into it, there are a few different ways you can interpret the movie, and you can actually have a discussion about it. And I think that really makes it a great movie, other than just a good movie. I would definitely recommend it to anybody that like Big Lebowski, anybody that likes the Coen Brothers type movies. Just you should go watch it. If for nothing else, the performances were spectacular.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and so I mean, I think overall, it's like you probably know if you like this kind of movie or not. If you're going to go into it and you're going to try and figure it out in one sitting, you're going to hurt yourself. I mean, I knew that going in, but I still, like, the first 20 minutes or so, I was like, so that means, and then this, and then that. And I'm like trying to put it all together in my head, and then it's like, and then this other character comes in, and she's really important to the plot somehow, and I'm lost, and I don't know what's going on. So yeah, that's the overall, you know, spoiler-free version of the review. To get into more detail and more scenes, what am I going to spoil? So, I was saying as we were walking out that, as far as like a climax of the movie or the end of the arc, that him saying that he would feel bad about not reuniting Owen Wilson's character with his family, and then him actually following through and doing that. That kind of made the movie, from a act structure, from a movie perspective, like that kind of became the solution or the end of the movie.
Right. For a movie that had a bunch of loosely connected events, yes, it did provide something that felt satisfying. And I kind of wondered, like, in the way it was telling it, how much of these cases was he really on? How much of it was his paranoid delusion? Because it seemed like he was actually very good at finding missing persons.
Well,
because he found that one girl, and then he found Owen Wilson's character, and I was never really sure what he was hired to do and what he was kind of like stumbling into by accident and what he was being coerced into doing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. He wasn't really officially hired for anything.
Right.
In the book, it goes into it a little bit, and he is very good at his job, and he had been doing work like this for a long time, which is why he became a private eye on his own. So he's supposed to be good at it. But yeah, he's never officially hired for anything in the movie. No one ever pays him for anything.
Yeah, he seems really, really smart. And it's almost like the drug and alcohol thing with him is, it's almost not like, it's not like a dependency thing. It's not like he sits around in his house and gets high because that's what he needs to do with his life. It's more like that's like his cover. Like that's his way into a lot of the stuff that he tries to get into. They talk about how I forget what her real name is, but I remember it as Topanga. It was something like that.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
The girl he was supposed to find, she'd like run away as a teenager, and he ran into her at a party somewhere and ended up like driving her home. It was almost like a lot of those things, you know, or when the guy said, you know, dress in a jacket and tie. He had these sort of personas that he would put on, and it seemed like what he was really good at was fitting into the drug culture, which was the crime culture of California in the 70s.
Yeah, they mentioned several times the Manson family. That's something that they bring up again and again.
Yeah, and they show Nixon as the president, and they talk about Vietnam a little bit. And I mean, you were talking before about, like, you know, open love and all that kind of thing. Like, those were all, like, you know, that 68 to 72 era of time was there were actual, you know, people on the police force that were doing that sort of thing, that were blending in that way, and you know, or actually being involved in low level sales and things like that to be tied into, you know, Vice and understanding how the
they talk
the
about
different trade works.
COINTELPRO in the movie.
Say it again.
They mention they're trying to hire the main character, Doc Sortello, at one point to be an informant for COINTELPRO.
Okay.
The government's actual, it was a program.
Undercover
that they
program.
Used, yeah, an undercover program they used to infiltrate a lot of different left-wing movements of the late 60s.
Was this book written in that time period, or is it a much more recent book?
It's more recent, but Thomas Pynchon lived through that time. He
Okay.
wrote a lot of books in that era, and so...
Well, because it is interesting the way it deals with that time period where people were losing their minds, because there was one legitimate hippie murder cult, and then all of a sudden all hippies became part of this murder cult. So I kind of like how people were afraid of hippies all of a sudden. You know, they represented something dangerous, and I think that's kind of comes across in this movie. In one moment he'll be very disarming to somebody, and then the next it's somebody's convinced he's, you know, a leader of a small cult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they touched briefly on, like, PCP, which was, like, there were drugs that were problems for people that were taking drugs, and there were drugs that were problems for everybody, and PCP was a problem for everybody.
Right.
So, yeah, and it was hard to tell the difference. The screenplay, to me, not necessarily the language or the nudity or any of that kind of stuff. Like, that all felt legit to me. But it also it felt a little bit like a movie that was written recently about that time period.
Yeah.
Just in how politically correct it was at times. You know, for all the lewdness and things that we were talking about, like the way that it treated the black characters in the movie and the Asian characters in the movie doesn't quite ring true.
For the Aryan Brotherhood being a huge part of this, yeah, racism's pretty mild in this movie.
In the book, it's a little bit more pronounced. They talk about it a little bit more.
But it wouldn't have been out of character for the main character to be
Right.
like, or to just, I mean, even use terminology that we would consider racist today.
I think he was subtly racist, though. If you notice, like, that's the only what's his name? Michael K. Williams, right? The guy from The Wire. that's in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the only
Omar.
person that Doc is really mistrustful of, and he's writing down, like, paranoid and, like, weird things on his notepad.
Well, I think that comes up a few times. Doc writes weird messages on the notebook, which is
But
another
he
reason
specifically mistrusts Michael K. Williams, which, I don't know. I guess maybe that's reaching for me to think
It's
of a race
possible.
thing, but he was the only person.
But then he brings Jade to the drug handoff for some reason, and it's just sort of like,
Well, because Jade's awesome.
Right.
Jade
I
is
guess.
the best character.
like she had the best eyeshadow in the car.
Yeah.
So
When Michael K. Williams just shows up randomly, and for some reason his case that he's bringing to him has a tenuous connection to the guy that his ex is seeing, that's what provokes his paranoia. Like, okay, well, why are you bringing this to me right now?
yeah.
That's how I took it too, because there's several moments where Doc's writing notes in that notebook that seems to be notes to himself. You know, like, is this really happening? It seems to be like he's
Yeah, it
questioning.
feels like watching an episode, like if you're in season 3, episode 10 of a 24 episode season of a drama, and you just watch like 2 hours of that and then stop. It's like, well, there's a lot of things here that I should know, and the character's acting like he already knows about it, so I'm just going to go along with it, and I don't know what this resolves or how this fixes
Yeah.
anything. But
It's interesting.
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah, the whole thing is like that. It doesn't take time to like introduce these characters to you or anything. It's almost like, oh yeah, did I miss something coming in? Should I already be familiar with the fun adventures?
Yeah, should
of
I know that
Doxatella?
Bigfoot and his partner had a gay relationship?
Well,
probably.
The thing that's sad for me is these characters were so amazing, and we'll probably never see them again.
Yeah.
No.
And that just hurts.
Well, that would be a problem. I mean, that would be a mistake to like try and write a sequel or.
Well, I
Oh, yeah,
know,
some
like
kind of-
it's one of those things. Like you really want to revisit these characters, but
Well, yeah.
Well, it's like the Big
It'd be hard
Lebowski.
to
It's like you do, but
capture.
you don't. It's so perfect on its
Right.
own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why it does hold up on revisiting, I guess.
Because we haven't had the son of Lebowski ruining the memory of it. In years
God.
Well, I
since.
mean, Inherent Vice and the Big Lebowski.
with Jamie
same.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
Right, with Jamie Kennedy as the son of the Big Lebowski.
Oh dear.
Oh, it's on the internet now.
We broke the internet. You should insult Star Wars.
Yeah,
real quick.
I'll do that again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the way we do these reviews, please like the video, subscribe, check out all the written and video reviews at dalemaxfield.com, and thanks for watching.